welcome to today's episode of Franchise Friday. Shout out to our listeners. Welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome to any newbies who are just tuning in. We're glad to have everyone here. My name is Melissa Pang. I am the Member Relationship Strategist here at the Entrepreneur Source. We are a coaching referral network. We have 170 coaches all across the US and Canada, and we work with our fabulous franchisor members, bringing them great candidates. And so today, I am so excited to have Assisting Hands Home Care here with me today, Dan Durney, the Director of Franchise Development, and then we also have two fabulous ladies here, Emmie Knox. She's an Assisting Hands franchisee and area representative in Austin, Texas. And we have Angela Flintz here as well, also an Assisting Hands franchisee and area representative in Nashville, Tennessee. So thank you guys. Welcome to the Franchise Friday podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we dive into stories and all the great things that you guys have to share, I would love to hear a little bit more about each of your backgrounds just quickly and just a few of the milestones that kind of led you to this point today where you are. So I'm going to start with you, Dan, on the franchisor side. Give us a little bit about your background, Assisting Hands. Tell the people.
Well, I had an IT career for 17 years before I got into franchising. This is my 20th year in franchising, so go Boomers.
I support you.
Thank you. So I came into franchising originally working with companies that offered an area representative program. I've always felt very strongly about that business model, and especially in companies where it provides an extra level of support with someone that's local in the market, that has operational understanding of how the business works, and they function as a coach and a mentor to the franchisees that are in the system. So it's a great extra level of support for franchisees. I love that model and been involved with that since day one of franchising for me.
Amazing. Thank you. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Angela, how about you?
Well, I kind of have a unique case. I've been a registered nurse for 23 years. So for me to get into franchising, this was always something that was my passion, helping seniors, doing public care, community care. So I had kind of wanted to get into this business. I always found myself helping my patients kind of off the clock and around time and going to my personal time. And my husband said, why are you doing this for someone else? We should have our own business. So I kind of had the inside scoop. I worked for one of our competitors, and my role was kind of referring to private duty home care, where I worked more as the skilled nurse. So, it was really nice to look at the franchising model because we have all that national support, where kind of looking at as I went to have my own home care agency, just the errors and omissions insurance, things like that were just, there's no way I feel that I would be as successful as I am if I was doing it privately rather than with a franchise.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. And we'll get more into kind of what Assisting Hands has done for you specifically, and you're an area representative. So we'll get to all that good stuff too. But Emmie, a little background on you.
Sure. So I'm a licensed master social worker. I worked in skilled nursing and hospice with the older adult population. And my husband, Lewis, owns the company with me, and he was in oil and gas. And around the time that industry wasn't doing well, him and I started looking for opportunities, and we pretty quickly narrowed it down to kind of my background in healthcare and working with older adults. And and then we decided on Assisting Hands and opened our West Austin location, and that was about 7 years ago.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. How long ago? And Angela, for you, how long ago did you open your business?
I am almost completing my 9th year as a franchise owner, and I'm in my 2nd year as an area rep.
Okay, amazing. All right, I do want to dive into the area rep piece of it because I find that very fascinating. But before we do that, I want to give Dan a little chance for you to talk about what makes Assisting Hands unique in the industry, because senior care, I mean, it's booming. There's a lot of demand. We have the baby boomers coming up into that age group, and there's a lot of players in the space, in the franchising world. So what is it about assisting hands that, again, you touched on the area representative model, that extra layer of support. Talk to us more about that and anything else with assisting hands from your perspective. And then Emmie and Angela, I would love to get your perspective because, again, you worked for a competitor, Angela. There's a lot in the space. So why assisting hands? Why area representative for you? But I'll start with you, Dan.
Thanks, Melissa. So you've correctly identified that there is a lot of competition and there are a lot of clients. Us baby boomers are 70 plus million strong, and the oldest of us is just now turning 75. So there's no shortage of clients. It's 10,000 a day, every single day, every 8.64 seconds. I did it on a spreadsheet because I have that kind of time.
I can tell you had an IT background.
And so when I was first getting into franchising, we had the opportunity to meet the founder of this company before it was a franchise. And we talked with her about franchising her business model. And she had a strong emphasis on well-trained caregivers. And so when this model became assisting hands, one of the strong emphasis points that we brought out was to make sure that we had a higher level of support, which Emmie and Angela can speak to as franchisees, for our caregivers to make their lives easier. Because if you take great care of the caregivers take great care of the clients. And really, whether you're a franchise or not in this space, you're only as good as the last caregiver you sent in to take care of someone. And as I like to say, with all due respect to Cold Stone Creamery, this ain't chopping ice cream. This is taking care of mom and dad. So we want to make sure that our franchisees all have a heart for the business. None of our franchisees have ever operated an agency as an owner. We have people, Emmie and Angela are both come from what I call industry adjacent careers. But we have people from food, from accounting, from all kind of walks of life, including even a couple of attorneys, which they claim they're recovering attorneys, so we let them in.
They promised to be.
I hope they don't hear this broadcast.
Dan's in trouble.
I'm in trouble already. I have to edit that one out.
Yeah, Dan's used to it. Dan's used to it at this point.
But the family culture, to answer your question about what really differentiates Assisted Hands, is a very strong family culture. It permeates from the very top down, and we don't even use the term top down because we refer to the corporate as the national team, and that permeates throughout the organization. And the real skill set for a franchisee is if they can build that family culture within their agency in the same way that the franchisor has built the family culture across a 28-state franchise system with almost 190 territories awarded. That's a real skill set. So people management skills, a heart for the business, are really two key components. And assisting hands with their family culture, some very strong use of technology that we have in our system, our area rep program, and then I would refer to probably one of our biggest differentiators, and Angela and Emmie can definitely speak to this, is our flexibility for our franchisees to build the business the best way they see fit. We have a full playbook for them to get up and running and started, and ongoing support. But each franchisee can really customize the services that they offer to the local market, and even the payor sources that they work with.
Thank you for sharing all of those things, because it's like you look at a business like this, home care, and people aren't waking up every day necessarily, and a lawyer isn't waking up and saying, I can't wait to run a home care business. But when you kind of break it down into, yes, we have the processes, the systems on the outside, it's a home care business, and we're making money, and people can have a great livelihood here and build an empire. But when you break it down and you talk about culture, family culture, you talk about bringing in the right people who are in alignment with that, and flexibility in these things, people aren't thinking about that right off the jump, like home care equals culture. They're not necessarily thinking that, but that's why I love this, because you're talking about bringing in people from all different walks of life, but they're sharing this one common thread of it's culture, it's people first, it's building a great experience for our clients and like taking care of mom and dad. That's what this is all about. It's so much more than a corporate structure process. So love all those things, Dan. And Emmie or Angela, I'll leave it up to either of you to kind of jump in here from your perspective. What was it that spoke to you about assisting hands, and anything else you really want to mention on, as a candidate looking at it, what made you say yes to area representative? What made you say yes to assisting hands? So I'll give it over to either of you.
I can go. I think for me, what was really nice with assisting hands is that, when I met with my broker, when I was like, okay, I want to do this, and I started meeting, the rest of the franchise owners and our local area rep at the time, it just was a very natural fit. Like, I did not feel like I was being sold to. I didn't feel like I was having to be convinced to buy this company. And I think the thing that was most endearing about assisting hands for me was that they were just so encompassing and making sure that they were a right fit for me, not necessarily me having to be the right fit for them and my money to be the right fit for them. I didn't have to put any money out to learn about this company, to go to our CEO's home and invite me for a family dinner and have a discovery day. Like, I didn't have to spend, an airline ticket, whoop-de-doo. So I think for me, that was just very endearing. And, speaking of our CEO, like, I could text him and say, Lane, like, I am really struggling. I need help. And my area rep's not helping me, or they're not understanding, or I need to go to the national team. I literally could text any one of them today from my cell phone and say, I need help. And they would immediately, what can I do? What can I do? How can I help you? And I think for me, because I was part of a competitor, I was a director of nursing for one of our competitors. And that culture is not there. It just really is not there. And I think, Emmie, you can attest to this, but one of the biggest questions I always get as an AR, as new franchisees coming in, is they're like, well, I don't have that medical background. I don't know how to do this. And I can't stress enough about home care. We all have this innate culture about us to care for others, right? We always take care of our elderly, care for others. And I truly feel that if you show that you are a genuine person and that you genuinely are trying to help the community or help this person, you will be successful with all the tools that Assisting Hands puts in place, and just home care in general. We all have the same goal. And if you just show that you're going to do what you say you do, and you're going to be a genuine human being, and you have that culture, and that comes from the top down. So like you say, like my office staff, they know my kids, I know their kids, my clients know my kids. Like, it's just a family thing. And I just think that's so important, because we have this thing we call the FOFO, the family of franchise owners. And when I say that to new owners, and they kind of chuckle, and I said, but I can't explain it to you till you get in it and you see, but it is truly a family of franchise owners. And some of mine and my husband's dearest friends are other franchise owners that we vacation with, we go visit. So that, I think that really just, really attests to the Assisting Hands model.
Amen to that. I love everything about that. So more I can ask about that. But Emmie, let me give you a chance to kind of give your take on it too.
Yeah, to kind of build on what Angela said, I didn't go into it thinking to look for this, but I think what stuck out to me the most was how much we were vetted by Assisting Hands. Some of the other companies we talked to didn't ask us a lot of questions about why we wanted to do this, or didn't get to know us or get to know our why, which is something we all talk about in the FOFO. And Assisting Hands was really, they wanted to vet us and make sure that we were a good fit to represent their brand, and also that Assisting Hands was a good fit for us, like Angela said, so that it was a good match. And then to also build on what Angela said about just having the compassion. If you can be a business owner that shows compassion for your employees, your caregivers, and your clients, you can be successful. Like, that's the key component, is what I would say. So when people do come interested in territories and franchising, and when they ask about the medical background, a lot of times it's just like having the heart and the compassion is like the biggest key for success, I would say. And then the FOFO is a huge part of it. It's definitely appealing. And like when we were in the vetting process or in the discovery process, it was really apparent how family oriented the whole group is, like from the national team to the FOFO, like just everyone is super interested in getting to know you and invested and like happy to like spend time together and get to know each other. And it truly feels very family oriented.
And if I can throw in a quick comment, part of our discovery process includes an in-person discovery day where the candidates fly into Boise, Idaho, and we go, as Angela mentioned, to the home of our CEO and have dinner with his family the night before discovery day. And then, weather permitting, we saddle up and ride some horses because they live on a working ranch. And it's a lot of fun. In fact, we had one discovery day where one of the candidates helped deliver a calf.
Listen, that'll seal the deal right there, right? You're like, how can I not?
Only with assisting hands would you have a story of delivering a calf at a discovery day.
That is very unique. I don't think I've ever heard that before. And I'm like, how do I get into the FOFO? Like, I hope you have t-shirts with this on there, because again, it's something like we put clients of ours into discovery, into looking at so many different brands. And again, I think a lot of them go into it thinking it is what it is on the surface. It's home care, it's pizza, it's ice cream, it's these things. And I love that all three of you have like broken it down into it's the people. It's like if you have a genuine care, people don't go into it think like they're asking, I don't have that background. I haven't been in home care. I don't have a medical background. And they think that's an obstacle. And I love that you're like, no, that's not, we can teach all those things. We can make that happen for you. You just need to have that desire to help others. And all of a sudden that opens up their minds to like, wow, I actually could do this, which is awesome. And again,
Melissa, a common thread that comes up when we have the first introductory call is that somewhere along the line, the franchise candidate has had some kind of connection with a parent or a grandparent or some loved one that has had caregivers, or they were in a facility. Sometimes the experience wasn't even a good experience, but they all recognize the impact that well-trained caregivers and well-matched with the client, based on the client requirements and caregiver attributes, caring for a client, the impact that has not only on them but on the extended family, because many times the family members are the primary providers, and sometimes the care is just giving a break to the family members so that they don't burn out in doing this. But they've all had experience somehow with providing care. In fact, in a couple of scenarios, we have some franchisees that are currently the primary caregivers, so they get it. They definitely get it.
Yeah, it definitely hits home. Like it resonates on multiple levels. And then also just want to mention too, you're talking about community. I think people go into it maybe not knowing the level of community. And again, it's different across all brands, but for assisting hands, so like like the fact that you're getting lifelong friends, you're running a business, you're doing great things, it like checks off so many boxes for so many people. So I want to talk about this more, but with assisting hands. You guys mentioned why. I think Emmie and Angela, at some point you mentioned, assisting hands really wanted to know your why. So at the Entrepreneur Source, we talk about income, lifestyle, wealth, equity, and we help our clients better understand and identify what are their goals around income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity. I would love to hear from you. How did this brand meet? Doesn't have to be all four of those things, but maybe it's, and again, income wise, I think it's you're good, you're successful in that area, but lifestyle, wealth, equity, are there any pieces there where this brand really did meet you on some level in those areas? And I can start with Angela.
Well, for me, definitely the income aspect of it, because I was working for someone else and I was going above and beyond and doing all these other things for someone else. And my husband's like, listen, we have 2 babies at home. And for me, I feel like as a mother and as a nurse, like that's what I'm built about, is to take care of people. And if I'm not there to do it, no one's going to do it. And he would say, listen, we need to invest in ourselves rather than me just keep doing this for someone else. And that really was kind of the trigger point. And as far as, some of the other factors, it just was, I wanted to invest in myself. I wanted to give myself, I have 3 daughters. I wanted to show them what it's like to be able to be in control. And one of the things that my mother always told me was, no matter in life, I want you to have a lifestyle that I could maintain the lifestyle I desired. I could take care of myself and my children, and to be able to put those qualities into my daughter. I think a lot of times kids are afraid of the elderly, and I see that a lot. So for me, it was really important that my kids know, like, we're going to visit Mr. Jones today because Mr. Jones can't drive. So it's summer and he really loves root beer floats. My kids will make sure that Mr. Jones has a root beer float. Like, for me, that was very important as a nurse to instill those things into my kids. But also it gives my husband and I a great lifestyle. I can be present in my kids' lives while still running a great business. You put those people in place that have the same passion and desire as you to do well. And that kind of has your office staff and your staff wanting to do better and helps you continue to grow the business. And I don't have to sit there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 doing it. I'm older now and I can enjoy my kids and I like having that flexibility. And then the AR model for like my future and retirement. For me, the AR model is my retirement. After starting 10 years to sit and do the day-to-day business, maybe I don't want to do that anymore. But I love to be like the mentor for my caregivers. They all laugh at me because I still have my nursing books in my office and let's look this up. For me, I love going back to that. And so like, I love to be that mentor and that guide. And I found that was really a key thing for me in the AR model, because I love to help new owners. Like, you can do this. Like, I believe in, let me show you how to do it. And so for me, it's very exciting. And I kind of have seen like the whole different paths of the different points of my life where I've been able to do that through assisting hands and, buying a second territory. Assisting hands did that. I had that income coming up, bought a second one, and be able to buy Tennessee and have that AR and all this. That was all from assisting hands. I didn't have to take loans and mortgage myself out and do all of that. I've had the income and flexibility and a lifestyle that I never thought I would have when I was in nursing school.
Amazing. And we talk too about, like, to our clients, the business is really the vehicle that's going to get you where you want to go. So you're able to have, assisting hands is that vehicle that you're driving to get to the flexibility and the lifestyle, and you're building wealth and equity now. And then in addition, you're showing your family and your daughters all of the great things that come with business ownership, helping others, like instilling these values. And I think that's even something you don't even think about when you're like, okay, business, profit. It's so much more than just that. So love that piece of it as well. Emmy, your thoughts?
Yeah. So something that was appealing about the business model itself was like the scalability, just knowing that you have like your office space and your office staff, but that out in the world, you can scale your business and have more and more clients and caregivers. That was something that was very appealing. And again, something I went into it not looking specifically for, but that I learned about and found very appealing. And then with that ability to scale, knowing that I had the resource of not only the national team, but all of the franchise owners and all of that, it's just a wealth of knowledge to like learn how to scale and learn the best marketing techniques and kind of learn how to grow as we, are open longer and longer. And then like Angela said, being able to be a business owner, but also be present. I have 2 little kids, a 3 and 4-year-old, both boys. So being able to be, home with them when I need to be home with them and being present in their, in their lives and being at home when I can be. And also I think part of what makes that successful is implementing like a strong infrastructure in the office, that you have competent people doing the roles that you kind of do at the very beginning. And then once you have a solid infrastructure in place, you have those employees that you take care of that work with the caregivers, that work with the clients. And that does enable for a little bit more flexibility and free time to be with kids.
which is really right. That's like almost that's the next that is the most important thing. We're taking care of other people's moms and dads. We're taking care, you're providing jobs for other people in the community. You're doing a lot of those things, but at the end of the day, yeah, family is such a big, it's like the biggest thing. So and I think too, a lot of people who are employed and in a job, or even in like that startup independent business, they don't see a way to, they're in the grind. Like they don't get to spend time with their family. They don't get to do all these things. And not saying that a franchised business or this isn't hard work, but you're working towards, that piece of it.
I think something that's really unique about Assisting Hands, and Dan might know the numbers, but there are so many owners in our family that are husband and wife. And we always tease some of our ARs in Florida. They have a new office and it's a cousin. And like, oh, but this is my cousin's friend. And we're like, do you have any family members that we could borrow to like open up in our states and such? Because people do like they believe in it. So when their other families see how great the lifestyle is and how they can encompass their family, their legitimate family purchases franchises. So it's so important. I think, husband and wives, there's so many owners that are husband and wives. And that says a lot, because if you would ask me back in the day in nursing school, would I own a business and would I work with my husband? No, I would have never made it.
My friends think I'm crazy for working with my husband.
Like, no, guys, it's good. It's good.
Well, and in addition to husbands and wives, we also have a father-daughter. We have a mother-daughter team. We have two sisters up in Illinois, and we have twin brothers in Florida.
Yeah.
So lots of different family versions of that.
So family-oriented, yeah.
Still family.
I would say it just speaks like you walk the walk and talk the talk. It's like very family, just all across. And also, that's amazing validation. You almost don't need to talk much more about it when you're like, yeah, my family members whom I love are also going into the business, and they want to, and I want them to. That's amazing.
Well, and that's good you bring that up, because I've been asked a question before. I love it when someone asks me, say, now, Dan, we've talked about this. Would you recommend this to your brother or your family member? And that's the kind of confidence that we have in this space, not just because the industry is huge and is a great opportunity, but the actual organization and family of Assisting Hands would be a great fit if they're so inclined to go that way. And so, like I said, there's been a couple of cousins that are in the business now. Some people that they've met at church have joined a couple of law enforcement that served in the Air Force Reserves. We have veterans that are part of the family, so it's quite across the board. A lot of referrals that we've had that have joined in as well, in addition to clients from the entrepreneur source.
It speaks volumes, for sure. I want to go into a little bit of how you all create a great experience for the candidates that come through. I think a lot of it is just listening to all three of you speak about the brand. I think the brand itself and the franchisees themselves just live and breathe it, so that it's very like palpable. Like if I'm a franchise candidate coming to look at Assisting Hands, I'm going to feel the culture. I'm going to experience the culture. I'm going to hear it. I'm going to see it. But from each of you, Dan, you're working on the franchisor side, bringing in candidates, and then Angela and Emmie, you're the area representative. What does that look like in terms of creating an amazing experience for these people who aren't quite franchisees yet? How do you do that? What does that look like?
Well, I work with Emmie and Angela on taking the candidates through their initial discovery. And so, like you said, there's a palpable family culture, but you can't really describe that until someone experiences it. And so I set the tone for the engagement by basically saying I'm more of a tour guide, because I hate pushy salespeople. So this is not about being sold, as Angela said in her when she was sharing her experience. It's more about being invited in to an experience where they can learn. So it's much more educationally oriented. They can learn about the business model, so on an intellectual level, and then they'll have, when they have the opportunity to validate, to be able to feel that experience from the franchisees as they share their personal experience and how they've come in. So when we're taking a client through the discovery process, we bring in Angela and Emmy with their respective areas into the conversation early, get a chance for them to meet, even get a chance to go and visit their office before they even come out to Discovery Day. So it's not only is an extra level of support, but it's after the franchisee or candidate becomes a franchisee, but even beforehand, so that they have an opportunity to meet who would be helping provide that additional support. And I think it makes just for a huge difference in taking the pressure off of the process, so that they can explore and determine. And we've some people just realize they don't really have the heart for the business. They can't, and that's okay. You know, we're selective. We're not trying to meet some quota of people bringing to grow the business. We're not owned by private equity, and we wear that as a badge of honor, with all due respect to those that are, because we want to maintain that the culture that we have and be selective about who the people we bring in, that it's a good fit for everybody and good for them and good for the organization.
I think when new franchisees come in, potential candidates, for me, I feel like it's so important. And Emmy and her husband are good friends of Derek and ours, and like I just feel like being very personable. For example, I have two couples, and one couple in one area, they have young kids. Their biggest things to me was, I want to see how you do this. Our child is 8 years old. How can we do the family lifestyle? Where maybe someone else I'm speaking with in a different area, they're older, kids are married, and they're kind of looking for a retirement type way, but yet still want to have an income. So I think it's so important to get to know your candidates on a personal level, because then you kind of got to see what path you're guiding them through, because everyone has their different reasons of wanting to be a franchisee. But I think just connecting on that personal level and seeing why and where their path leads them, and giving them the confidence and showing them, it can be done with what your desires are. I think it's really important for them to feel confident.
Mm-hmm. I think being on the calls with Dan kind of gives them it kind of models what that will look like when they are franchisees, like the national team partnering with the AR and those two layers of support. And I think as a potential franchisee, before I signed paperwork, I really appreciated the validation calls, and I did get a sense for the FOFO, like the family feel. It was just a glimpse, because you weren't like part of it yet, but it definitely gave me like the good, warm, fuzzy feelings.
I love it. And I think too, like Angela, what you're saying is, you're customizing or tailoring the experience to that individual. And it's funny because you think, okay, yeah, that like makes sense. That's common sense. Of course I'm going to do that. But not everyone does. And I think that's really special about what Assisting Hands does. But this team, I can tell, it's a killer team here, because you care about the people, and you're looking for that genuine connection. You're okay to say no, this isn't the right fit, and you're wanting to create a great experience for them based on what it is that what their why is. So, and again, this goes back to why Assisting Hands and the Entrepreneur Source is such a great match, because we are looking at the same things. It's the client first. It's the why. It's creating the experience. And the
clients that come from the Entrepreneur Source coaches are very well prepared. I do ask on the initial call, why are you looking at senior care? And sometimes it's because they said that my coach suggested that I do it. I hadn't been thinking of it before. And sure enough, as we go through the process, up comes that scenario where they've had a link to a parent or a grandparent that probably came out in the conversation with their coach, that led the coach to say, hey, this might not have been something you would have thought of off the top of your head, but just based on our conversation, this might be something worth taking a look at. And so we explore that. But the candidates are very well prepared before they even get to us to start talking with, and we really appreciate that.
I'm very glad to hear it, because that is what we want to do, is bring you the people who are potentially going to be like the right people and who have that like undercurrent of the culture and the family. And I know like the coaches love when people are like, why would you throw in the wild card? Why this? Because then you get to like change their minds. Not selling, but you just like, they're just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I love this.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it moves up to the top of the list. We're going to wrap things up now. I do have a question for Angela and Emmie, and then also for Dan. And of course, if you want to add in any last minute things here, please do. I could like ask questions for ages, but for Angela and Emmie, what would you say? Just be one or two things, something that you've learned in your own journey going through the experience and being a franchisee, or what you've seen as you work with potential franchisees looking at assisting hands. But what would you tell these other, husband-wife teams, individuals, people who are looking at investing into a franchise, whether it's assisting hands or not? What is it that maybe they should look out for or be aware of, or something they're not even thinking of that would be good to think about? Again, it's pretty broad, but just, one or two things.
For me, with the franchising, I love having that national marketer. I love having the national support, like for example, my website. And I was like, oh, how can I, like, hold on, we'll do it. We got it. Things that a legal team, and keeping up with the ever changing legalities of home care. I mean, I just can't say enough how much having that appropriate support from someone else. I mean, I make jokes about it all the time, but I'm a nurse. I can save your life, but I could not do my QuickBooks at all. So I love having the support of the national team. Okay, here's the marketer who can do fun, great flyers. I'll come up with the idea of the event, but create that for me. And she does an amazing job. And being able to just reach out to other franchise owners. Hey, like, I'm struggling with this, or has anyone done something fun for their employees' anniversary or something like that? I just love having that capability to reach out to other franchise owners for ideas. And, I feel like I'm in a rut. What's a little something that we could do to refresh our office? Or just, I think that's so fun, bouncing ideas off of each other. But then, really having the legal team, the national marketing team, just the technical support, and the legalities and the support there behind with a franchise that you would not have. I mean, I think a lot of times people think they can just start their own business and it's easy, but I mean, just everything that we see and do on a day-to-day basis about being an owner and that part of it, it's just tremendous. And there's definitely no way I could do it without being part of a franchise.
Love it. Emmie, anything to add to that on your side, that what you would say to someone looking at franchising?
Ditto. All of that, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a business background. I'm a social worker by trade. Lewis, has background managing people in oil and gas, but having the tools there for us was really like what we needed and what kind of made it all work.
Love it. And exactly. And I'll let you chime in too, Dan, as well. But just looking at it as a candidate looking at franchising, and oftentimes for the first time, it like, ask about support, ask franchisees about support, ask about marketing. To your point, Angela, you're saying, I come up with the idea and the marketing team puts it into play. So you do have that creativity. You do have some say there. I think people can think, I don't have any creativity, I don't have any say, they're going to tell me what to do. Like, no, ask. And I think the franchisees and that validation piece of it is, that's where you want to ask your questions and just get, all of that from the franchisees. What does that support look like, so you can focus on the people and the things that you're good at.
And I think one of the things that new franchisees, at least that I get the question a lot, and Emmie, I'm sure you could validate, is they'll say, well, how long is my training? So I go to Discovery Day, then I come back and I go to Miami for training, and then I'm supposed to open. And I'm just very honest, like, this industry is very gray. there isn't really so much black and white, except for some state regulations, but because there's so much learning that is constantly going on. And if you ever say, oh, I feel like I need to learn about that, great, let's get on a call with your AR, or let's get on a call with the national team, because a lot of training can't be done till certain situations present themselves. Like, it's very hard. And so I always say, like, I feel like even I'm starting my 10th year. I feel like I'm still learning always. Industry is always changing, but that is what is so nice about the national team and the franchise background, because they're staying up with all of those changing trends and all these changes in laws that I know myself as a personal owner, I would not have the capability to do as well as run my business. So I just think that's a huge thing that I feel like the training is never ending. And having those supports, that's so important to know.
Very true.
Well, I'm going to throw a curveball to you, Melissa.
I can't wait.
Yeah, Angela and Emmie are both really nervous here. So first off, I want to emphasize that what Angela and Emmie talked about from the marketing standpoint, probably an additional differentiator is that our marketing, we do the website for the franchisee, we do all the social media posts, the franchisees can contribute to those as well, but there's an infrastructure already set up for them to within the guidelines. But we have a marketing director and works one-on-one with each of the franchisees, and she also has a team that support her to map out their marketing initiatives when they first launch, ongoing activities and mailings and things like that. But it's not only for client acquisition, but it's also for caregiver recruiting. And we haven't really talked about that, and I know Emmie has specifically a really good story, but the elephant in the room in senior care is caregivers.
Right.
And I'd be interested to, I know the story from Emmie, but interested to hear from Angela as well about how they build not only that family environment, but how they deal with the caregiver part of the business, which is for sure the biggest challenge that comes up in validation all the time. But I just wanted to emphasize that the marketing aspect helps also for caregiver recruiting. But at the end of the day, how you retain and grow your caregivers comes down to how people handle their family culture in their agency. Emmie.
Are you talking about our life enrichment? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have in-services throughout the year for caregivers to come do training at our office, and we've started about 2 or 3 years ago. We started rotating like in-services about hands-on caregiving with what we call life enrichment workshops, which are more geared towards the caregiver's personal life. So we sent out surveys about what were their personal goals, and a lot of them it was like buying a house for the first time or saving up money or budgeting, that kind of thing. So we kind of started compiling those ideas from their surveys. And now every other in-service is actually a life enrichment workshop. So we've had a budgeting one, a first-time home buyers workshop. I'm blanking on the other ones, but we've been gearing them all. A debt payoff class. We had a credit union come in and lead that one. But we've been incorporating those into our in-services throughout the year so that they can also have stuff to look forward to that could help them on their personal level. And the more we're able to help them personally, the more they're engaged with their client and their lives are better and they're, happy to work with us and more engaged in general. So that's something that has been working well.
I love that. I love this curveball. This is a good one because it actually is such a big point for this industry specifically. And again, you're going back to their why, like your caregiver's why. So it just goes down all the way, and that's what resonates and creates that bond. I don't know, Angela, if you want to add anything on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, caregiving, it is a tough industry at times to hire, and you invest so much time. And in the beginning, I used to take it so personal if someone would quit or not show up, and I was like, "But we've done so much, or we're great." But I quickly learned it's not about me or my office. It's kind of in their lifestyle. So I couldn't agree more with Emmie. It's almost like we need to teach them how to want to make themselves better so that way they're more successful at their job. And, back in the day, I worked in the ICU and I would do my hair and my makeup, and my husband would always say, "Why are you getting all dolled up? to go to work, most of my patients are unresponsive, on ventilators and stuff. They don't even see you. And I was like,
That's amazing.
I worked overnights. And I said, honestly, though, I felt like I'm walking into the room. Hi, I'm Angela. I'm your nurse. And I look very well put together and I feel confident and I feel organized. I'm going to be a better nurse. And I think that's so important to our caregivers. If they've got, I've had like back to school fairs where I have people bring in backpacks that maybe they don't want anymore. And do they need backpacks for school, supplies? For Thanksgiving, Derek and I have bought 50 plus turkeys and he made sure every one of our employees had a Thanksgiving meal. We do a scrub swap. If someone no longer wants to wear scrubs or they don't fit into them, bring them in and let's bring them in washed and, let's scrub around, like just something to help them feel better and confident about themselves, because the more successful they are, the more successful we're going to be. And I don't want to be like Target, just punch in, punch out, do your job. Like I want them to really know that I do care about them. I do want them to be successful, because that's only going to make them care for their client better. So I do think it's so important to help the caregivers realize. And again, there's some that are never going to feel that way and they won't engage, and that's fine. But just to know that an opportunity presents itself, and those who do want that engagement, it's there and we're happy to do it.
And I will say that I've noticed that caregivers are, in general, a different type of person. They're more caring and nurturing. And were they lured by checks to sit home and do nothing? Yes. And then they came back. Have they been lured by higher hourly wages from different companies like Amazon and Target and whatnot? But they're missing that component that strikes a chord with their heart about caring for people. So if they know that there's a place where they can go to, that heartstring can be pulled, then that's the goal for Assisting Hands, to become that preferred provider. Because it's not uncommon that a caregiver may work for multiple agencies, just depending on their shift flexibility, et cetera. And even if someone's a seasoned caregiver, we still take them through the Assisting Hands University. Like I mentioned before, we tend to have a higher level of professionalism. They're CPR certified, and even though other caregivers organizations might not require that, or even some states that don't require that, we do. So we tend to take the high road in those kinds of areas.
I love all of this. You guys are giving so many good examples of, and again, it could transcend not just the senior care industry and for Assisting Hands, but this is something that like I would want as an employee or as a franchisor. So good to think about. You guys are looking at every level, it's like the national team, and then you have your area representatives, and then the, individual franchisees under that, and then the employees of there. And so it just keeps going down and down, all the way down to the clients, which are of course the most important. And so that is actually very, very special, I think. I feel like I'm talking to three very special people here, because I don't think you find that in every single organization. And so thank you for sharing so much, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to share this with literally everyone, so they can understand this, and also take a look at how am I treating, my own employees? How am I treating my own franchisees? How am I working with my franchise candidates? I think you guys have offered up amazing pieces of like nuggets of information that could, if people were to put them to use, would create a much better experience across many different brands in franchising. So thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure. Yes, I want to say thank you. So
thank you, Melissa.
Dan,
we really appreciate
Angela,
it.
Emmie with Assisting Hands. Thank you guys so much.
And by the way, Melissa, we do have available territories in Connecticut.
Yeah. We'll talk offline. It's always a good end to the podcast when I'm like contemplating investing in a franchise. So you guys have done your job well.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.